Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to another week of Reset Mindset Unlocked. And one of your hosts, Tracy Powell, coming from the US of A. And then we also have the very lovely.
Beth Hall. Hello, everyone. Woo woo!
Yes, we are so excited that you guys have decided to join us again, and we're happy to come to you to to continue another subject that we started or mentioned last week. And today, we're going to continue talking about leadership, types of leaders, and things like that. So, with that being said, I want to see here if my sis Beth want to get this going with the leaders.
Oh, where do I begin? The thing is, so I'm the corporate guru one, and so I kind of take a lot of this, how this applies in the workplace, not just corporate, but in the workplace on
Right.
general. And I think the biggest thing in leadership is releasing. If you're truly going to be a
Hello, Beth. Okay, Beth will be back with us in just a moment. I think we had a little technical
leader,
difficulty. So I think she's back with us now. Okay.
can you hear me?
Now we can. You went out for a while.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry about that.
So you were saying if you were truly a leader.
If you're truly a leader, you want to be able to relinquish control
Exactly.
and give your team that power, or let them
Mhm.
feel that they are empowered to do what they need to do. I mean,
Yes.
you hired them, they're adults,
Hmm.
they have the skills, they have the experience, they have that. Help them, build them
Hmm.
up, because true leaders, that's what you're supposed to do, is help those who are where they're at and
Hmm.
let them rise with you.
Exactly. And that it's funny she's saying that. Well, it's really not funny. I guess it's all part of it. But when she's saying that about a true leader relinquishes some of the responsibilities and things, I was thinking about all the different types of leaderships I was looking at today. And that falls, a good leader, like she says, involves the team. And that kind of falls under the democratic style of leadership. You involve your team members, you want to hear what their
Yes.
input is and how you can best take those ideas and then implement them in whatever the project may be. And that falls under actually the some of the good characteristics, because I was looking at good leaders versus bad leaders, and that was one of the main things. And then the other one too, um I didn't realize there was so many different styles of leadership. I was looking at autocratic, democratic, laissez-faire, transactional.
Micromanagers.
Micromanagers are in there, they're not in the great ones. And then coaching and situational managers, where they just kind of like whatever the situation is, and that depends on the style that they use. I tend to like the democratic one, and the autocratic I don't, because that's the one everything is from them, and they tend to make mistakes and they put a lot of pressure, which leads to low morale.
Right.
But when you were
And
talking
high
about,
stress.
yes, high stress level, but when you were talking about the in getting the team involved,
Yes.
it boosts the employees' morale, and because it lets them know that you're listening to them, what they have to say is important, and that they can actually put their skill set to use
Right.
for the good of the company or whatever business or place it is, you know.
Right.
So I really but I was just amazed at the different styles of leadership and the laissez-faire. And I'm like, okay, a laissez-faire leader don't really want to succeed, because they could just kind of sit back and give all the authority to their leaders, and you look up and then there's a gigantic mistake because you didn't check in, you
Right.
know.
And the thing is, leaders, And I'm going to say there's a difference between leaders and bosses or
Oh, yes.
managers. And the thing that we as employees or co-workers, whatever it may be, however your company defines it, you,
Hmm.
you need to know the difference
Right.
because sometimes people in management positions,
Hmm.
if they know that you're good and they know that you can whip up a nice presentation or whatever, or pull the data and put it where it's easy to present or whatever that is, and
Hmm.
then they take that because you're giving it to them, and they take that and then they say, I did it. Meaning the
Oh
manager
my
says,
goodness.
I did it.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I've come from companies that I've had bosses take my spreadsheets, my PowerPoint presentations, things like
Mm.
that, and go ahead and say in their whatever meeting it was, and say they did the work.
Oh my
That
gosh.
is a big red flag, one. And two,
Yes.
that does make you feel like I did all this work. You couldn't give me credit for what I have done.
Yeah.
So be aware of that. Be alert because trust me, it will come back that you will find out that the boss took it because their boss or their leader may say, great presentation. Oh, how did you do that? Can you do that for this project for me? And then come to find out, they'll come back to you and say, hey, can you do this? You did such a great job. But they didn't tell their boss that you did the job.
What would you like say to someone who's dealing with that? Like, what would be the advice you would give them so that like they can protect their work or and not to mention making you feel like you're being used and
Yeah,
that has to hurt, you know?
yeah. One I would say is what I started to do once I found out is put my initials on the presentation.
There you go.
So if especially if your boss's name is not the same initials as yours, what's this BH doing on it? What's BH doing on it? Hmm.
Yeah,
Because you got to be able to let the higher ups know you're the one who did the work.
right.
Yes, your boss might have gave you the number.
Hello. Okay, so I think we're having a few little issues, but she'll be back with us, and she's back. So, like she was saying about that, about putting your initials on it, to me, it's like start throwing that word out, plagiarizing, because in a sense, that's what's happening. They're taking credit for what you did.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you great now.
Okay. So I took off the headphones.
Okay. Told you she'd be back.
um, you also to have that time with your manager, ask to speak with them.
Hmm.
Do a one-on-ones, and tell them how you feel betrayed, how they betrayed
Yeah,
you. And have examples. Don't go in there going, well, I thought you were, be very specific.
right.
And if I was coaching someone through this, I would say to you, when you're at home, type up on your Google Docs the points that you want to address with your manager.
Hmm.
Then have that, document and go meet with your manager, because then you're going to stay on topic and you're going to definitely end up staying where um, you know what you're saying, and you're not going to get emotional. Like, you're not going to say you did this and
And
make a
that's what they're
big
looking
deal.
for. Yes.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they're looking for.
Yeah. Now it's funny. I wonder if we should continue it because that's to me bad leader. you know. And I was just checking out some of the characteristics, and I was just thinking, well, didn't I really have to look for them? that leader that thinks they know it all, you know, the micromanager, they over your shoulder for everything under the sun. And it's like, no one's going to perform to their best or their top tier if they feel someone's just watching every single thing that they do. You know,
Exactly.
then why have why have me there if that's what you're going to do, you know? And I had a micromanager once, and I had to really just talk to him like, hey, I can't do this because I know I can do better. But when you're watching me and you have something to say about everything, I can't give you my best because I'm so
No,
busy wondering about what's coming next. What are you going to say
exactly.
next?
Exactly.
And I felt a little better, but finally I just had to switch, you know, had to go to a different team with where I was
Right.
working because it just wasn't going to work until that individual was gone. But not that being a poor communicator, inconsistent, and to me, having unrealistic expectations.
Yes. Yes.
That that's a big one, you know.
Yes. And you know, the thing is, when I used to work at the college and university, and I used to manage a team, I always used to say to myself, I learned the hard way because I did have expectations. What I would do, I expected my team to do the exact same thing. You know, that kind of, if I'm going to show up, I didn't have to be at work until 8:30. If I show up at 8 a.m., I'm kind of thinking my team will be there by 8:05, 8:10, you know, because I'm going, hey, I'm showing up, then you show up early.
You're leading by example.
Well, right. Well, you can't have that as a leader because you can't put your expectation onto them. How you would do it, you can't put that on because everybody's different and everybody has their weaknesses and they have their strengths.
Right.
So, my team, which I always had an open door, told me that they're like, Beth, this is not realistic.
Okay.
You know, yes, you come in early and everything like that, but I have a family. I have this. I have to drop the kids off. I have to, you know, there's only one car in our family. I can't get here that early like you do, which is totally fine. You don't have to be here till 8:30. I was getting here at 8 o'clock because I was like, let's start, let's get things going, you know, let's
Gotcha. Okay, because I
so
thought that you were like, okay, I'm here at 8, everybody's here at 8. But if they weren't supposed to be there to 8:30, I totally get you.
yeah. And
But
so
that's good that you can that you listen to them.
yes, yes. And I appreciated came to me and told me so I
Mhm.
was made aware. Otherwise,
Right.
a lot of times you're not made aware. You don't realize your expectations are being put onto your team. But my team knew that I wouldn't ask them anything. And that was my motto. I don't ask
Mhm.
you to do anything that I wouldn't do.
There you go. That is like key for a leader to me. You
Yeah.
lead by example. If you won't do it, don't expect your team to do it.
Yeah.
Now you and looking out for your team is a good thing too.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of leaders don't do that, you know. Um, I was thinking about how some leaders like, well, get it done no matter what, and or if they're tired or whatever, they have no empathy or sympathy about that. And I was just, you know, I'm always going to go to the Bible. I was thinking of David and how he was an amazing leader. Now Saul is after him to kill him and his men, but David, being David the main one, but
Right.
David realized how weak his guys were. It got so tough
Yeah.
that they were hungry.
Yeah.
And David did something that was not allowed. David
Right.
asked Ahimelech, could he have the showbread to feed his troops, his team?
Yeah.
And he gave it to him because there was nothing else. And Jesus even pointed back to that. So sometimes you got to be willing to bend
Yeah.
to make sure that your team is okay and taken care of because you take care of them, they're going to take care of you and your business. or
Exactly.
whatever the job may be.
Yeah.
They'll meet that
And
deadline. I'm sorry.
yeah, and then what happens is your team then reciprocates for you
Mm-hmm.
when things may, may be chaotic. It may be, depending on the business or whatever it is, it may be a busy time.
Right.
Team will step up for you because they know you will do the same for them. So that's when hey, I'm under a good leader, because they're in the dirt, if you want to say, with their team. And
Right.
then they're taking, where my weaknesses were, I utilized my team members. They might have been really good in drafting up. Now I'm good at it. But, back then, I think about it, they were better in Excel, PowerPoint, things like that. I was like, okay, guess what? Susie, you're going to do this. And Rhonda, you'll do this. And that worked. And
Mm-hmm.
I gave them credit. I told them to put their names on the spreadsheet, on the thing. And they were
Mm-hmm.
like, no, it's yours. It's yours. I was like, no, no, no. You did it. You have to you're getting the credit for it. So they would say presented by Beth, but created by Susie, created by Rhonda, or whatever. So
That's amazing. And that's
yeah.
the way it should be, because I'll tell a person in a minute, if some of this tech stuff is beyond me and mine. Now I'm good with a PowerPoint, but a spreadsheet, uh-uh. So yeah, somebody's gonna get the credit for that.
Right,
Because
exactly.
like you said, you utilize people where your weaknesses are and let them
Right.
shine. And there's another area to me that's real big. If to me, a really great leader will understand that accountability is what needs to be. If you're the leader, it starts with you, it ends with you.
You. Yeah.
If something doesn't go right, not saying you got to take all the blame, but you're the leader.
Yeah.
Step up, accept the responsibility. And I have
Yeah.
known leaders that have put their people under the bus, thinking it's making them look good,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't. A
No.
true leader will be accountable. Like, I may not have personally made the mistake, but you know what? It ends with me. It starts with me. It ends with me. That's my
Exactly.
team. We'll work on it. Something to that effect.
Exactly.
But a
And
lot of times,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh no, I was just going to say a lot of times you don't see that.
Yeah. That I can think of countless times how much I've been under the bus and felt the bus go boop 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 boop. But at the same time, when there's a lot of chaos at
Mm-hmm.
the office, you have to be mindful of that too, because
Yeah.
your leader should quiet the noise, quiet that chaos. You should be
Right.
able to come into the office and do your job, do whatever needs to happen. You shouldn't really feel the chaos. When you're starting to
Mm-hmm.
feel chaos, because there is
Yes.
chaos going on, you might then bring it to your leader's attention. But if your leader is not doing anything about it, that's not a leader.
Mm-mm. No, because culture and the everything like that, it matters a lot.
Exactly.
It's funny, I was listening to I may have even said it. This young man, well, to me, young man was speaking about how he was making this company millions of dollars, like every month, just millions and millions. And he was sitting back, he was like, it's literally like torture sitting in the boardroom because you're watching them just eat people up, spit them out like they don't matter. And he tried to speak up about something. And they told him the only reason why we won't fire you is because you make us money. So sit there and be quiet. And he said, when they told him that, he said he literally was scared. He said, when they told him that, he had to go home and he talked to a mentor of his, female mentor, and she asked him a simple question that changed his life. Who do you want to become? He
Yeah.
said, I always heard, what do you want to be?
Yeah.
like job, but who do you want to become as a person? And he said to just sit there and think about it. He said he was making tons of money and all this stuff. But you tell me as a grown man, sit there, be quiet. The only reason why we keeping you is because you make money. He said, I quit right then and there. I knew it was time
Yeah.
for something different, you know. Because so when leaders are being that, it's one thing to be, what's the word I want to use? Strict
Yeah.
or have expected. I can respect, you know,
Yeah.
but there's a difference between being strict and being just outright mean, rude, and cruel.
Yeah.
And you think you're going to produce, and you're just basically going to lose some great people, you
Yeah.
know? So I guess I'm saying, that
Yeah.
that that
No,
really
I
just like it
think,
stood out to me when he said that.
yeah. I think about the time that I was at a particular company. I was there for a very short time because most of my job history is years. I used to be able to just leave if I wanted to. And I usually look back and I would say the reason I left that company is because like your morals and your ethics start to kick in and you realize the company's not on the same level or they're doing some
Mhm.
shady stuff and you're just like, this is not for me anymore. I
Right.
gotta leave. But this one particular company, I remember I needed a job. I was out of a job. So I was like, okay, I'll take this. It's one of those, now I look back, it's probably like desperation that I was in. And my manager who hired me, she was out on a leave of absence. I mean, I interviewed with her and everything like that. And I was like, ooh, we're going to get along. I like this lady. I felt good about the interview. And when she hired me, she's like, oh, and I was just like, yes, this is my kind of boss. She never came back from her leave. And I was like, why wouldn't she come back to the company? Well, the
Mhm.
company at that time, um, it was just right after COVID and everything. The company was doing what the norms were doing, meaning they were telling everybody you had to come back into the office. And
Wow.
she was like, I don't feel comfortable coming back into the office. People, even now, people don't say they're sick. I
Mhm.
can't afford to get sick. I have a child and yada, yada.
Right.
And I was like, they wouldn't make an exception. She lived too close. They were like, you're within the radius. You have to come back into the office. And I was like,
Wow.
wow. So she basically stayed on her leave, looked for another job, and left. So I was like, man, I really like her, and everything.
Mhm.
But this lady who took over her department, can I say racism 101? I
Woo.
mean, it was like daggers of racism,
Oh
like
my gosh.
questioning. There was only like for this particular team, there was only three of us who were black. She got rid
Mhm.
of the guy. There was two women and one guy, and we were the black ones. She got rid of the guy. She figured out how to get rid of him. Then she
Wow.
came after both the women, and I was like, But the thing is, the company loved her. They moved her up very quickly in promotion.
Wow.
And that you got to be careful too with,
Yes.
because you would say, well, Beth, why didn't you go to HR? Why didn't you do this or that? But you got to, once I realized that she's loved
Mhm.
by that organization, that's going to be a tough fight to go to HR because they're going to quickly say it's me versus her. And I don't know what she said, but
Mhm.
I hightailed it out of there. I was like, you're not going to, no, no.
I hear you. I dealt with a situation similar to that in the sense that I think what kind of saved me is like a year prior to me bringing things to the new CEO's attention. There was a company that came in, and the overall company wanted to know how we felt about our workspace. And a lot of people said things about this VP of our department. She didn't change anything. The whole racism, like you said. And she
Right.
thought because her sister was married to a black man, she could say anything she wanted to say to me in particular, because it was like a love-hate thing. And I'm like, baby, don't. I don't care what your title is. Some things you need to stop.
You just, right.
Yeah, but it got to the point where he didn't like the fact that, as you said, I stood up for myself and I wouldn't allow her to just like insult me, thinking that, hey,
Right.
we're cool like that. No, we're not. There's some things you can't do. So I, being me, as we say, kept receipts, things that were
Right.
said, emails that were sent, things that were done. I jotted down dates, times, and all this. And it got to the point where I couldn't take it anymore. And I was like, okay, I know I'm not going to be here. I could feel that, when your time is coming, even though it was a
Yeah.
year later, but I didn't care at this point. I'm like, I need to change it because there's going to be other people of color coming behind me and they don't need to deal with this. So when the new guy came, she said the right thing on the wrong day. And
The earrings came off.
the earrings came off. I'm like, oh, baby, we're going to have a chit chat with the top man. So I did.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, it was a risk for me to do that because, as you said, everybody loved her. But when you start
Right.
quoting laws and what the state laws say, and you bring in EEOC, sometimes when people love them, they start like, okay, she's not, she
She,
okay, follow
yeah, back
through with this.
away.
Yeah. So, but just so happened the new CEO was a really good guy. He took me out because he was like, I see you're a little nervous about being around him. I'm like, yeah, because if she comes see me and here with you, there's going to be repercussions. So he's
Right.
like, she won't do anything. I'm a CEO, but for your sake, I will take you out and we will talk. So we went and had lunch for 3 hours. I told that man everything he needed to know about what was going on in his company. And he told me he had checked me out before he even talked to me. That blew me away. He was like, I checked you out before I sat down. And he was like, someone, lady named Liz in HR, said that if you had something to say, I needed to listen. And he said, I was the only one in the entire company that had nerve enough to talk to him face to face. I said, well, I almost didn't. I started to send you a letter. And he said, you know what I would have done with it? He said, filed it in that new filing
Trash
cabinet,
bin.
the trash can. Yes.
Yeah.
So it made things better for others. But, he kept, and he was like, promotions that I was overlooked for because she was having me train everybody else and
Mm,
promoting them and wasn't promoting me. And he was like, I don't want you to, not to apply again or not to submit for this. I was like, I'm done. I said, don't worry about me. I said, I just want to make sure it doesn't happen to other people. And a year
right.
later, I was gone. But yeah, like you said, you have to be really careful when you're going to HR and really have your stuff together because if not, it can be, we're not saying to be scary, just know what you're doing when you do it.
Yeah. Because you really can't bring your emotions into it.
No,
It has to
emotions.
be all facts. It has to really
Exactly.
just, that's why I always say type it out on a Google Doc and
Mm-hmm.
have that be your point talking points,
Yes.
because if you just go in there blind or something to report your manager, your boss, or you
You
know,
get nowhere.
you get really nowhere, and
Yes.
it's going to be more stress. And I've seen where bosses have blackballed employees to go to other companies. So that's why I, I stress the have your facts. Don't go in
Mm-hmm.
there with emotions. Don't go in there.
Be
Again, don't
professional.
take off the earrings and
Right.
remove the jewelry or whatever.
Just be
If
professional.
exactly, keep it
Yeah.
professional. Know your part, meaning try not to use any foul language, because they're just looking for one thing,
That's
and
all they need.
that's all they need. And they're going to say it's all you.
Mm-hmm.
So, if this is like helping anyone, I know times right now are just like scary and everything like that. But, just kind of take a seat back. And if you
Mm-hmm.
can, you're like, hey, I can't do anything. I'm in that situation. Like you said, you described more of a boss. This person's not a leader. Then
Mm-hmm.
try and lay back under the radar and put out your resume. And don't be afraid for a position that might have different things as a requirement. You may not have it,
Mm-hmm.
but I'll tell you this, go for it. You just
Yeah,
never know.
you never know. So, just know the type of leader you're working with and deal with them accordingly is, as we say, but the main thing, keep it, as I
Yeah.
call it, keeping receipts. As
Yeah.
Beth said, keep the facts. Don't throw
Yes.
things away. You never know when you need it. Hold on to it because it can end up being a lifesaver for you. So today, that's really what we wanted to deal with. This could go on for a long time, but
It
it's
could.
running short. So we just wanted to talk to you today about leaders and different types of leaderships and styles and things like that. So hopefully this bless someone, and you know knowing a good leader from a bad leader, or if you're about to be a leader, knowing how to treat your staff and or your team. So we just want to say thank you for joining us again, and hopefully you'll join us again next week. And real quick before we sign off, I know this doesn't have anything to do with leadership. No, well, yes, it does, because Jesus is a leader. If you don't know him as your personal Lord and Savior, come on, he's the best leader ever. Just acknowledge him with saying it from your mouth that you trust in him. He's your Lord, your Savior. You believe in his death, burial, and resurrection, and you are saved. So we have to do that because we want to see. You never know who's listening, who needs Jesus at this moment. And Jesus is the best leader ever. And he's a healer. He's a friend. He's everything. He's the great I am. He's everything.
And
So we
he always has an open door.
always, and he never sleep or tired. So call on many time of the day or night. Jesus is always there. And real soon, we're gonna just keep putting this little nugget in your ear. I'm gonna say this before we sign off. Beth and I have some things we're going to be announcing really soon to invite you
Yes.
all so we can all kind of like learn something together and share things. But we're going to talk more about that in the next month or so. But we're just going to kind of do little teasers to let you know, be expecting some news from us shortly. And with that being said, we love you guys. And until next week, we just want to say bye bye.
Bye for now.